Hello, and welcome to another episode of Disrupt Your Now, the show for entrepreneurs who are ready to shake things up. Tonight, my guest is Ben Baker from Canada.
Yeah, I'm only taking up real estate here in this country. So
Yeah. So, Ben is the president of Your Brand Marketing, and he is a brand expert. He's been doing it for over 25 years. He is an expert at helping people understand their own story and
mhm.
how to communicate it to the world. And like I told you earlier, Ben, first of all, welcome to the show. In
Well,
just
thanks for having me, Lisa. We always have so much fun together.
I
So
know it's a blast. In just a second, I want you to tell the audience a bit more about yourself,
sure.
but I also want to say, to me, this is one of the hardest things because we're all too close to our own story.
hmm
So I love that you're joining me tonight to talk with us.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, branding is something, especially personal branding.
Hmm.
Business branding is tough, but personal branding is even tougher. When I branded my company, I'm a branding expert. This is what I do all day long. I hired another company to help me brand my company
Oh
because
yeah,
I realized that, for me to do it, you're going to say, well, that's obvious. That's obvious. But it's obvious to me, but it's
yeah,
not obvious to anybody else.
that's right.
And
Yeah.
we need to sit there and realize, well, I've heard this story 100 times. Yes, you have, but nobody else has.
Uh huh.
The story that you've told 1,000 times,
Hmm.
remember the 1,001st person that heard it, that's the first time they've heard it.
That's
And
such a
it's
great
new and it's
point.
fresh.
Yeah, that's such a great point because we all feel like, "Oh, I don't want to keep saying the same old thing." It's kind of like with your spouse or somebody in your family, like, oh my God, do I have to hear that story again?
Oh, the fishing story again. He's bringing up the fishing story again. And that
Yeah,
fish just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
yeah. But yeah, that's a really good point. So, okay, tell us about your background and how you
Sure.
got to where you are today, and then we'll go.
Well, about 25 years ago or 27 years ago, when, oh God, no, 26 years ago, because we got married coming up at 26 years ago,
Hmm.
I was in the air 200 days a year.
Oh,
I
wow.
was I was literally the George Clooney, show up at the airport, hadn't a clue where I was going, ticket would be waiting for me, and all of a sudden, off I go to the
Oh,
next
my
gig.
goodness. So, what were you doing?
I was working for a high-tech company in retail, and I had a $100 million client that was ended up being bought out by a Best Buy. So if everybody
Mm,
in the US knows Best Buy, this was a company called Future Shop. They ended up being bought out by Best Buy. Same look, same feel, different color scheme.
okay.
And so it just they were a 100 store chain and they
Mm,
were $100 million customer of mine. And my job was to put all the programs together. I had 30 staff underneath me, and my job was to go fix problems.
okay.
And so when we first got married, my wife and I looked at each other and said, "This is a divorce waiting to happen."
For
Yeah,
sure.
as a young single guy, it was great. But as
Yeah.
soon as you're married and you're starting a life and all this stuff together, it's not the life that you want. So I started taking the idea of, listen, double my salary to pay for the divorce or cut my travel days in half. And they said, tell you what, we'll buy you out. I said, done.
Uh,
So they bought me out. And part of the deal was I got a what do you want to be when you grow up training.
oh, cool.
And so they ran me through a huge battery of tests, and I talked to industrial psychologists, and they asked me a million questions, and it came out that I love telling people stories,
Uh huh.
and I love being part of people's stories, and it got me into marketing. So about 25 years ago, I got into direct mail, and I worked for the casinos, and I worked for grocery store chains, and it was all about telling people stories and getting them in front of their audience in a brand new and exciting way.
Hmm.
But the problem is my clients kept going, well, so and so just put out a coupon. We need to do a coupon. Somebody else put a direct mail. We need direct mail. I'm like, no,
Hmm.
stop. What you need to do is you need to figure your brand out first.
Yeah.
We need to be the leaders in the marketplace. We need to be the one that everybody else is chasing their tail, trying to keep up with us.
Uh huh.
And that's how I help my clients, is to sit there and say, let's figure out what your brand is first. Who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? Who do you do it for? Why do these people care? What do you do that's different from your competition? What makes people care about you? All right, now let's go out and do it.
Okay.
And so that led to some pretty exciting campaigns. We did a birthday card campaign for a casino where we did 40 or 50,000 pieces of direct mail every single month, and we got a 45% response rate.
Wow.
All right. Typical response rate is 3 to 5%.
Yeah, I know.
We're getting 45% of the
That's
people walking
crazy.
in the door
Wow.
and making money hand over fist. And so this is the fun stuff that I've been involved with for years.
Mhm.
And what I've always realized is that if we can tell the story of the brand, if we can figure out what the brand is, if we can tell the story of the brand, not only are customers going to get it, not only are vendors going to get it, but our own people are going to get it as well. And
Mhm.
when people understand the brand, if they understand how they relate to the brand, when they feel part of the story, they start telling the story from the I point of view.
Mhm.
And that's when you've got them. And that's
Yeah.
when you're building a tribe. And that's what we've always tried to do.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to say it's also heartening to those of us who are small business owners. It's heartening to know that bigger companies have the same problem. It's just
Absolutely.
that it's just that a lot of us are more personal branding or micro business branding or whatever, and they're, the company itself. So, if you're out there and you're feeling frustrated, it ain't just you, it's everybody.
It's like, when your kids are young, you say, okay, small kids, small problems, big kids, big problems. It's the
Yeah.
same thing with companies.
Yeah.
You know, we all have the same challenges. We're all trying to get people to know, like, and trust us.
Mhm.
We're all trying to get people to sit there and say, why are you different from somebody else? Why should I care about you and not your competitor? Why should I buy from you and not your competitor? Why should I trust you and not your competitor? And whether you're a 2-person company, a 1-person company, or a 50,000 person company, the challenge is the same. The dollars might be a little different. What you do on a daily basis might be different. Your budget may be a little bit more significant in terms of your marketing,
Uh-huh.
but the basic philosophy is just the same. You're telling a
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. And I'm always like, you can't see the forest for the trees, because
Mhm.
when you're in the middle of it, even though we know ourselves and all that, we take stuff for granted, or like you mentioned earlier, we feel like we've said it over and over and over. We feel like we're harping on it.
But we're not. I mean,
Mhm.
we're not harping on it because here's the thing. People get tired of their brand. People sit there and go, oh, my logo. First of all, let's separate between a brand and a logo.
Yes.
That's the first thing we need to
Thank
get people to
you.
understand. Okay.
Thanks. Yep.
Is your brand is the 3-step stool that if one of those legs fall over, your brand is done.
Mhm.
It's who are you, what do you do, and why do you do it? It's the quintessential idea of your identity. Your
Mhm.
logo is merely an avatar. The Nike is not the swoosh.
Yeah.
Nike is about personal excellence. That's what their
Mhm.
brand is. Their brand is about personal excellence and about persevering. The actual swoosh itself is just like, oh yeah, that's Nike. Okay,
Mhm.
now I can think about what Nike's brand is all about.
Yeah.
But people get tired of their avatars. They get tired of their logos. They change the font, they change their logo, they change all this because they're tired of it. Guess
Mhm.
what? 9 times out of 10, your customers aren't.
That's
You know,
right.
and your
And they don't
customers rely
recognize.
on that, and they get
Yeah.
confused if you try to change it up too often. Well, I need to be hip. I need to be cool. I need to change this. I need to change my color schemes, this, that, the other thing. And people go, well, wait a second here. Why did you? Then they say, why did you change?
Mhm.
Like, what is if you've got a new story to tell, by all sense, change your logo, change your brand. Like if
Yeah.
all of a sudden you go from selling hammers to being a hammer consultant,
Mhm.
okay, you're a consultancy that consults on people how to make a better hammer instead of selling hammers.
Mhm.
Guess what? Your brand has changed. You need to change the story. You need to change your look and your feel of the company.
Yeah.
But unless you're dynamically changing who you are, what you do, and why you do it, changing your logo, changing your brand confuses people. And
Yeah.
they ask what's wrong. And the last thing you want is a customer asking what's wrong.
Mhm. Well, and you mentioned a few minutes ago about your client saying, they're sending out this email, they're sending out these coupons, whatever. So we have to do this, we have to do that. That's one of the biggest problems that I find
Mhm.
and have found with my clients over the years. is that the core business, they are building it by looking at other people and saying, that's what they're doing, that's what I have to do. And especially when you're talking about a small business and somebody who it's their life,
Mhm.
when you're doing that, you're building somebody else's business. You're not building the business that you want that fits the life that you want.
And you become a commodity. And use,
Mhm.
sorry about the expression, but you become another Me Too.
Yeah.
And use that any which way you want. But it's, I'm going to be just like them. So
Mhm.
all of a sudden, you're usurping your identity with theirs.
Yeah.
And you're not differentiating yourself. All you are is then a cheaper version of them.
Mhm.
And then it's a race to the bottom. And then
Yeah.
it's like, who can sell X cheaper? Because there's no
Mhm.
way to differentiate. If all of a sudden you can sit there and elevate your brand, show how your customer service, your client experience, your people, whatever, are different and more valuable and perceived as valuable by your audience, then that's a game changer. If
Mhm.
all you are is a cheaper version of H&M, you know, okay, somebody can always be cheaper than you.
That's
H
right.
and H&M can sit there and say, I'm going to throw everything on sale. I'm going to sell it for a buck above cost because I want to bury this person.
Mhm.
That's not differentiating yourself with the brand. That's getting into a pricing war.
Yeah.
And that's
Eh,
a different game altogether.
right, and the winner is always gonna be whoever's got the deepest pockets to absorb all the losses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And hope to God that you go out of business before they kill their run rate. So
That's right.
it's a game that nobody should ever want to be in.
Yeah. Tell us about your book because I forgot to mention that. The
No,
book.
that's all right. I
What
have two
and
I
you
have
have
2
2.
books. I have 2
Mhm.
books. One is called is and I wrote it in 2018, Powerful Personal Brands: A Hands-On Guide to Understanding Yours. And the second book is called Leading Beyond a Crisis: A Conversation About What's Next.
Okay.
Now, Powerful Personal Brands was written in 2018 because I work with the universities. I volunteer. I go up there 4 or 5 times a year, and I work with third and fourth year business students to teach them how to network, how to engage, how to do interviews, etc. And I found that these kids are really smart. They're talented, they're smart, they're passionate about what they do, and they can't communicate out of a paper bag.
Yeah.
They think that, well, my grades are such and such. And I went, I don't care.
Mhm.
Like, I don't care what grades are. It's like, what do you call the person who graduated last of their medical school? Doctor. They
Exactly.
they still have a medical degree.
Yeah.
What I want to find out about is, who are you as a person?
Mhm.
And I couldn't find anything to help them. So I wrote this book. And this
Okay.
this book is, it's more of a workbook than anything else. It's stories from my life. It's lessons that I've learned. And at the end of every chapter, I have a question. And I say, here's a question. Here's 2 pages of blank lines. Write your own answer.
Mhm.
And I also took 8 or 10 of my friends who are CEOs from across North America, and I asked them the same 4 questions. And I said, I don't care if you write me 200 words or 5,000 words. Come up with an answer. And I made those chapters within the book. So
Oh, that's so
there's
cool.
my ideas in there. There's 10 different CEOs' ideas in there. And then there's space for you to write your own answers.
That's awesome because it gives people, because everybody's like, ah, where do I start? And so that's really cool because even just one example is great, but when you can have several, it just kind of feeds you the ideas and helps self-confidence. I think that is so great that you do that because myself included, you graduate from college, you know a lot of book stuff and you
Mhm.
don't know anything else. You're pretty stupid. Most of us are.
And you know what? It takes years to bang the stupid out of us. It really
Uh-huh.
does. I'm still there. In my 50s, I'm still working to bang the stupid out of me at times. I mean, one of the questions I ask is, what are your 3 favorite movies and
Okay.
why?
Uh-huh.
And I could care less what the movies are.
Yeah.
It's, why are these movies important to you?
Mhm.
What do they do for you? Why have they reached into your soul and become part of your being?
Okay.
And if you start asking questions like that for yourself, who were the 3 teachers growing up that changed your life and why?
Mhm.
Those are the type of questions that I want to know the answers to, because it's the people that you met, it's the experiences that you had, it's the failures that you came across and you learned from That's what makes your personal brand. It's
Yeah.
not just the highlight reel. It's not the veneer. It's not looking at somebody else's profile on LinkedIn and said, oh my God, they must be an incredible person. Yeah, everybody's got a highlight reel.
Yeah.
Everybody shows their highlight reel on LinkedIn or wherever. That's where you show your highlight reel. Don't compare your life to somebody's 2 minutes, because anybody can look good for 2 minutes.
That's for sure. Yeah. And personally, I want to know the failures, because when somebody is brave enough to communicate their failures and what they've learned from it, you know that they're a real person. Because
Absolutely.
if somebody hasn't failed, then they haven't done anything.
As I tell people, it says, listen, I've fallen down more holes than you care to imagine. The difference is I found a way to scrape and get myself out of them.
Yeah.
And I know if we jump on that hole again, I know the way out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what makes me valuable.
Uh-huh.
And it's being able to realize what are your superpowers? What are the things that you're passionate about? What are the things that you love to do? What are the things that, you just do a little bit differently from anybody else?
Mhm.
That's your personal brand.
Yeah.
What's the hill you're willing to die on? What are the things you're willing to fight for? And what are the things you're willing to fight against?
Yeah.
Those are the things that people need to be thinking about.
And the other thing that does is it helps potential clients recognize you, that you are somebody that they should be working with, but it also helps you recognize who you should not be working with. Because
Exactly.
too many of we business owners feel like, oh my God, I just have to have every client that comes along, I have to have more money. And the truth is, the average small business really doesn't need that many clients, that many customers. You need the right customers instead of wasting your time on the wrong people that just make you miserable.
Here's a thought process. There's 8 billion people in the world. 99.9999% of those people
Mhm.
will never know you exist, and you can life.
Yeah.
1/10,000th of 1% of the world population is still 8,000 people.
Yeah.
If you had 8,000 clients that paid, were profitable, that liked you, that did business with you on a regular basis, I couldn't handle that many clients.
No,
Most businesses couldn't.
that's right.
And
Yeah.
those are the people you need to pay attention to, because those are the people who get what you do. They see value in what you do. They know that you can solve a problem that they have, and they want to do business with you because of that. And
Mhm.
that's what we need to focus on, and forget about the 99.9999% of people, because most of those people don't even know that you exist.
Yeah. And even if they do, they don't need what you have, or they're
That's right.
not the right person for you to work with, or
Exactly.
whatever. And another thing that over the years that I've seen people do is they try to do everything because they're so
Mhm.
worried. Oh, so and so offers this, so if I don't offer it, then I'm going to lose clients. And probably like 10 years ago, a guy that worked for me, and we were focusing a lot more on design at that time. And a guy that worked for me just freaked out because a new design firm was moving to town, and he knew them and they're great. But he was just like in panic mode. Oh my God. And I was like, so what? Okay, they were already in business. We were already in business. Yeah, we live in a small town, but our market is the entire world. There's plenty of business to go around. And feeling that competition is good for you.
It is. It makes you better. It makes them better. And you're right. You know what? The chances of you guys coming across the same clients all the time,
Mhm.
almost impossible. My friend Kurt Anderson tells a story, calls it the right knee guy. He
Mhm.
says there's a guy out there who's so specialized that all he's going to do is he's going to work on your right knee. He won't work on your left knee, won't work on your ankle, won't work on your back. But if you've got a surgery for your right knee, he's the guy that you want.
Uh-huh.
And that's what we all need to become. We need to sit there and say, this is what I do, and this is what I don't do. And by the way, here's a great company that I really know, like, and trust. That's what they do. Let me introduce you to them.
Yeah.
Because first of all, if it's business that's minutia for you, if it's stuff that's not outside, if it's outside your bailiwick, if it's outside what you do well, Why are you chasing it?
Yeah.
Why are you chasing work that is not profitable? It's not stuff you like to do. It's not stuff that you're good at.
Mhm.
Better to refer that work to somebody that that like, and trust. They'll sit there and be so appreciative. They're going to refer work back to you that's outside of their bailiwick,
Yeah.
and life is better. So focus on what you're good at, and don't
Mhm.
worry about the rest of it, because, as you said, there's enough work for everybody.
It's better for everybody, and then for the client that you referred, they appreciate it. They know that you're honest. They know that you would rather them have the best whatever
Hmm.
than for you to have the money, and that then they will communicate that honesty to other people who would then be more likely to do business with you.
Or they could come back and say, you know what? We really appreciate the fact that you sent us off to these other people. They took really good care of us. By the way, we've got a job coming up that's right in your wheelhouse. We'd really like to talk to you about when we can start.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it could be 10 times as big as the original opportunity.
Mhm.
So it's a matter of sitting there going, this is my wheelhouse. This is my jam. This is my brand. This is what I do. This is what I do well. And this is why. And stick to it.
Yeah. And not only what you do, but also who you do it for.
Exactly.
The types of clients, the sizes, and it could even be down to the industry that they're in. It all depends on what it is that you do.
Yeah, I work with B2B brands. I don't
Mhm.
usually work with business to consumer brands. I
Yeah.
don't deal with retail brands.
Yeah, that's
I
how I
prefer
am.
to do business to business companies.
Yeah.
And I deal with companies that are 1,000 employees and above.
Mhm.
And we tend to be very strategic about who we work with.
Yeah.
So, you gotta know who your client is and who they're not.
And it makes it so much easier for you to talk, to speak that language because you're speaking the language that they recognize, which is a totally different language than other, B2C, smaller, whatever. Everybody, all the different niches have their own vocabulary and
Yes, they
so
do.
forth. Yeah.
Yes, they do.
So for most of my the people that follow my show and watch me are entrepreneurs who own small
Yep.
to medium sized businesses, mostly small. So for their first step, first of all, if they go get your book, powerful personal brands,
It's a mouthful, isn't it?
I know, really. So they can start there by exploring these questions
Mhm.
in their mind.
That's a good place for them to start. I mean, for people who are looking at a brand, because when you're a small business, when you're a 2 to 3 people, a solopreneur, whatever, your personal brand is your business brand.
Yeah.
I'm a one person consultancy who deals with very large corporations. I have very purposely separated my personal brand from my corporate brand. I
Mhm.
am the CEO of this brand, but that's how I've presented my personal brand.
Okay.
But a lot of smaller companies, you are interchangeable. If you're a lawyer, you're a doctor, you're an accountant, you're a plumber, a smith of some type. You are your brand. And your thing is how do I solve the problems of these people?
Mhm.
And it's about being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
This is what I do well, and this is what I'm terrible at.
Mhm.
Okay, accentuate the positives. Don't negate the negatives, but say, listen, we don't do this.
Uh-huh.
This is not what we do. We do this.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to be comfortable in our own skin
Mhm.
to be able to say, you know what? I'm not sure. Let me find out for you and let me get back to you,
Yeah.
because people appreciate that.
They sure do. And I'll tell you, as I've gotten older and all these years of experience, one thing that I've noticed with myself is when, maybe somebody asks you to do something and maybe you've already been doing it and you're good at it, or maybe you've never done it. But either way, as I've gotten older, I've become more able to feel that cringe factor inside that I may have totally ignored when I was younger, or whether it's cringe or anxiety or whatever. And it may be the thing that they need, or it may be the person, or what. Not that I don't like people, but just certain types of
Yeah.
relationships. And we need to pay attention to that stuff, don't we,
We do.
Ben?
We do, because here's the thing. Just like not everybody's going to like you, you're not going to like everybody.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not everybody's cup of tea.
Mhm.
Not everybody likes dealing with me. Not everybody thinks that I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. And that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, you need to be comfortable with that. You need to be comfortable with people saying no. People say we've gone a different way. We're doing something different. You know, you need to be professional about it. You need to ask why. You need to understand why. And you need to be able to listen to the real answers.
Mhm.
And sometimes it has absolutely nothing to do with you. And sometimes it's just a personal thing. I found out, you know, a number of years back, I could have given the business away to somebody and I never would have given it. I could have done the business for free and I never would have got it. Why? Her brother-in-law was in the same business.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing I could do.
Mhm.
So why bother chasing it?
That's right.
You know, why bother chasing it? And it was a big client, could have been worth several hundred thousands of dollars for me, you know, monthly, never mind yearly.
Mhm.
But there was no way I was ever wrestling this away from her brother-in-law. It's just
Yeah.
not going to happen, because she goes, then I have to explain it at Thanksgiving dinner and Christmas dinner.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, and she owned the company. And she goes,
Mhm.
yep, I make the decision. I don't have a board of directors I have to answer to. You know, my decision is he treats me fairly, charges me a reasonable amount of money, but not overly much so.
Mhm.
And I know that he's going to take care of me, because he doesn't want to deal with me, or he doesn't want to deal with his wife. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, he doesn't wanna be at the Thanksgiving dinner or whatever and feel that pressure
that,
from
that
knowing that
icy
he's
cold
messed
stare
up.
down the
Yeah.
back of his neck.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. That's a really good story. Do you have any others that you wanna share about?
Oh God. I mean, there's so many different stories about, you know, when you're coming to brand, you know, the big thing is be honest with yourself about your brand.
Mm,
You know, if we're moving towards doing something, don't say that you're doing something. I hate the phrase fake it till you make it.
yeah.
I hate the people that sit there and go, get the job and then we'll figure out how to make it happen.
Mhm.
You know what? People can tell.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there going, you're putting yourself in a position that if you mess it up, you're never going to get another chance at these people.
Yeah, for sure.
And you need to be honest. This is what we do. This is what we do. This is what we specialize in. This is what we don't specialize in.
Mhm.
And be able to say it's okay, and be able to build your brand based on honesty, integrity, and don't shirk from responsibility. If you mess something up, just tell people.
Yeah.
You know, people will forgive somebody who makes a mistake, owns up to it, and fixes it. Nobody is willing to give somebody a second chance who lies to them, ignores you, you know, hides from the problem, and blames somebody else for it. You know,
Exactly.
that's also your brand.
Yeah.
And you also want to make sure that if you've got somebody like that working for you, get rid of them.
Mhm.
You know, because that's your brand. If you've
Yeah.
got an employee and they're not living up to your brand standards, if they're not acting ethically or morally, or saying things that you would never say to a customer,
Mhm.
you either need to train them on what you need them to do, or you need to get rid of them,
Mhm.
because that affects your brand.
Yeah. And they can walk away and leave any
And
day,
you
and
have to clean up the mess.
right, you're stuck with it. And
Mhm.
hey, I not that exact problem, but similar when I was caring for my mother with Alzheimer's. I'm on me, 100% on me. I made a poor hiring decision, but the ripple effects were devastating to my staff and me financially,
Mhm.
and you know, and I was so busy taking care of her, that so anyway, but no, I know that can be a nightmare.
And you had to realize, all right, mom's a priority. I
Mhm.
made this hire. It may have not been the right hire forever, but at
Yeah,
least it got me over a bridge to be
yeah,
able to deal with what I can do. And we all need to give ourselves a little grace to say, yes, we made a mistake. How do I fix this? How do I recover and move on from here?
Yeah, that's what I tell myself on a regular basis. Give yourself, myself, the same grace that I give others.
Hmm.
You know, and learn from your mistakes. I tell my husband, at least I know what the biggest mistake he has I ever made in my life, and I learned a lot from it. So I'm not happy about all the fallout from it and all that, but at least I learned. I haven't continued to make that same mistake.
But it's a story that you can tell customers that
Hmm.
A, makes you human, makes
Yeah.
you relatable, and it also gives you the ability to say, listen, we learned from our mistakes, we took care of our customers, and we moved beyond this.
Yeah.
And that leads to a level of trust
Hmm.
with clients that telling them everything is wonderful and everything is hokey dokey and we're making millions of dollars and life is grand never will.
Yeah. And actually, that's part of the reason that I love to work with people who are going through something similar like I did. It doesn't have to be a parent with Alzheimer's, but any kind of life-changing experience, whatever it is. We all have so many of those throughout our lives, helping them to adapt their business so that they can make it through that,
Yeah.
you know? Because if I had been my client instead of myself, I would have, advised me not to do what I did. But
Hmm.
because it was myself and I was in panic mode and we're all like that. So I love to take what I learned from that terrible experience and help other people, you know, if they're in any kind of
Yeah.
similar experience, do better. And then it also, I feel like it honors my mother as well.
Well, it's become part of your brand. It's become part of your brand story.
Yeah.
It's part of we go through trials and tribulations. Aside, it's the lessons we learn from it
Hmm.
and the fact that we're better off because of it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what makes us relatable. That's what makes us trustworthy. That's what makes it people want to rally behind us
Mhm.
because people like being with people that have made it through the other side. And
Yeah.
I think that that makes us more human and more relatable.
Yeah. And people hire people. They want to work with
Absolutely.
people. They don't want to work with
Absolutely.
a brand, a company, or whatever. It's the people,
Mhm.
whether it's big company or little, at certain levels. So, what would you say? What are some of the, or one or two of like the really bad things that you went through that you've learned from?
I mean, when I was very young in my career, I had the opportunity to bring on board a fairly large client. And in those days, it would have been a large client. Today, I don't know how big it is in the grand scheme of things, but in my mind, in those days, it was a big client. And this was the time when we went from film and plate. I was still doing printing for companies, and we went from film and plate to digital press.
Okay.
And we got this was the first job for them, and we did a proof, and there was a spelling mistake. I
Hmm.
said, "Yep, no problem. Don't worry about it. We'll fix this thing and we'll make you up a new proof." Well, they fixed the proof, but they didn't tell me that the document reflowed.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so the whole document reflowed, so it had the great gaping holes and thing, and the sentences didn't line up and all that kind of stuff. But all we did is we proofed that one sentence. Yep, that was fine. The
Hmm.
extra 3 words got added in. Fine, signed off on it, and away it went.
Hmm.
And printed 50,000 of these.
Oh my gosh.
And in the end, I said, "Well, you signed off on it." They said, "Well, yeah, but you were advising us." I go, "Yeah, but you signed off on it."
Hmm.
And I lost, I won the battle and lost the war.
Yeah.
We reprinted it. They paid their bill, and I never saw them again.
Hmm.
And they never returned my phone call. And I'm sure they told everybody they knew at the time not to deal with us because of
Yeah.
this. So
Wow.
yeah, okay, it didn't cost me any money at the time, but guess what? We never saw them again.
Yeah.
On the flip side, we're working for a police department, and this is 18, 20 years ago.
Mhm.
and they wanted us to do some custom clothing for the police officers, and so a custom jacket. And they gave us $600 to make a spec sample.
Okay.
And I went to one of my suppliers and said, "Yeah, no problem, absolutely no problem." And he went to, we took the sample, we took it to China. They made the sample. You're supposed to coming back, and it didn't come back. It didn't come back. It didn't come back, and then it finally comes back, 24 hours before it's supposed to be in these people's hands. Well, what I didn't find out, his mother was dying,
Oh,
and his mind was elsewhere.
yeah.
And the jacket came back, and one arm was longer than the other, and the zippers were in the wrong place, and
Oh my
two or three
goodness.
other things. And I called up the customer and I said, "Look, here's how this is going to go. I'm going to take your $600 and I'm refunding it today. You'll have a
Mhm.
check. You'll have a check in the mail tomorrow. I'm taking my name off the bidders list for this particular job. And if you need me to fall on the sword so you look okay from this, I'm fine with that."
Yeah.
I said, "This jacket looks terrible. I cannot show it to you. It's an embarrassment. And I don't even want to put this up in the bid list because, first of all, we're not going to get the job. And second of all, it looks horrible."
Yeah.
I ended up doing $10 million with this client over the next 12 to 15 years
Wow.
because I was honest enough to say, "You know what? Let me take care of you. Mea culpa. It's 100% my fault. Let me fall on the sword. Let me take care of things."
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, I'm bidding stuff that I never even knew existed, let alone, let alone was even some of it I wasn't even qualified for. And he still, I still got some of this job because he walked me through. He said, "No, here's what the competitor is doing. Da, 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 da." Here, work was coming to me.
Yeah. Because
And a
they
lot of that
trusted you.
they trusted me. They
Yeah.
trusted that I was going to make sure that it was right.
Mhm.
And that was part of my brand. That is
Yeah.
part of my brand. My
Uh-huh.
brand is, if it's wrong, it's wrong. And if it's right, it's right. And I'm not going to give you a discount if it's wrong and just make you, sit there and go, "Well, it's still wrong. Yeah, they gave us some money, but look at this." And then people for the next 5 years are going to be looking at something and pointing
Mhm.
out that it's wrong. And they don't care that they got a discount. They're still dealing with something that was wrong.
Yeah, 'cause they
I'd
have to
rather,
see that.
yeah, I'd rather take it back from them, throw it in the garbage, redo it,
Mhm.
than to sit there and have something that's wrong and bad and ugly
Yeah.
in their hands that they can sit there and point to, that's got my logo and my brand attached to it.
Yeah. Those are great lessons to share. Yeah. So, what would you say is the best, like, okay, those are kind of nightmares. What's maybe the biggest, like, good surprise or some? Do you have anything that you can think of that
Yeah,
happened?
I mean, it comes from my podcast every day. I
Uh
mean, not
huh.
every day, but a lot of days, where I've been podcasting for 10 years. My podcast, the YourLIVINGBrand.live show, has been on for 5.5 years, 300 plus episodes. You've been on the show,
Uh huh.
and we get phone calls. We get phone calls out of the blue. We get people that sit there. "I've been listening to your show for a year.
Hmm.
Can you come in and have a conversation with us?"
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just, you're just out there doing what you do,
Hmm.
and people are noticing. And you don't know that they've been downloading it every single week. You don't know that they've been looking at your LinkedIn profile. You don't know that they've been looking through your website.
Hmm.
You have no idea because they're one, IP address out of God knows how many, and you're not paying attention to it. And all of a sudden, some vice president of some large corporation calls you up and said, "You know what? We had a vendor let us down. Can you come in and talk to us?"
Yeah.
And that's just being consistent.
Hmm.
And that's the biggest thing about branding that most people will never tell you. It's about being consistent. If this is who you want to be, you got to be that 24/7, 365, year after year after year.
Hmm.
And it's just, this is who we are. This is what we do. This is why we do it. This is who we do it for. This is the service we provide. These are the people that we take care of year after year after year. And people get used to that. And
Mhm.
people tell stories about that. And people refer you because of that.
Yeah.
And that's what people need to realize. It's not a short game. It's a long haul with a brand. And it's
Yeah.
stuff that you did 6 months ago that's going to get somebody to say, you know what? I need, I need you to take care of it. That Gary V tells a story. Gary Vaynerchuk tells a story about, wine where he did somebody a favor, and he was watching this tweet. This guy was a fan of whatever football team, so he sent him a jersey. And this guy had spent a couple $300 at the wine club, and he goes, "Oh, okay, fine." Nothing, 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 nothing. And all of a sudden, this guy shows up out of nowhere and orders $25,000 worth of wine.
Oh my gosh.
And he says, "Yeah." He says, "I hear you got my buddy in this jersey." He says, "I just bought this wine. Hey, I like blah blah blah."
So like he couldn't
And
go get a jersey.
Gary sent him a jersey. Why not?
That's
But it
so
was,
funny though, because
but
it's like you could have gone bought the jersey for much less than the 25,000, but
exactly. But
still,
this guy just bought $25,000
yeah.
worth of wine, and the reason he did it is because not that he couldn't have gotten the wine cheaper. It's not that
Mhm.
it was the story behind it.
Yeah, yeah. I was just speaking with a client yesterday about similar topic. They're really, really frustrated and they feel like they're just spinning their wheels. And of course, we all do that. We all
We're
go
all
through that.
there.
But I told them, you have no idea who is watching you, who is looking at your posts, who is going to your website and reading the content that you're generating, listening to the shows that you're on, and so forth. And no guarantee, but somebody could just literally pop up tomorrow and be the client of your dreams that you have no idea even knows about you. So that's a really, what you're saying dovetails with that.
Yeah, I mean, you can sit there and go, you know, and it might not be the person who's listening to your show. It not be that they could be the executive assistant to a vice president, who whatever.
Yeah.
My favorite story, and this is going back years ago, and back to when I worked retail. So who knows how long ago this was? Probably back in my university days. So back in the 80s.
Hmm.
And I'm working over Christmas, and all of a sudden these two huge guys show up, and I'm in the electronics department. Tattooed guys, jean jacket over leather jacket, rings on all their fingers. Obviously they're part of some motorcycle gang somewhere.
Hmm.
Goes up and he says, "Can I help you?" And he goes, "Yeah, I need a VCR for my sister." So this is how long ago it was. It was a 2-head VCR. So I'll tell you how long ago this was.
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay." He says, "I want that one." I says, "No, you don't want that one." He goes, "Why?" He says, "We've been having problems with that one. Buy the Panasonic. It's $20 more. It's got a Canada-wide warranty." He says, "Oh, good. It's going to my sister in Ontario." I said, "Perfect. Buy the Ontario." He says, "Doesn't matter where they are in Canada. It has a 2-year warranty on this thing. They'll take care of it for her."
Hmm.
Great. Guy flips out $100 bills and pays for this thing. Security comes up to us afterwards and says, "So how did our studded friend pay?" He said, "Paid cash." I said, "Okay." Valentine's Day, my girlfriend and a bunch of her girlfriends found out about this new bar that they've heard of, and they said, "We all have to go for Valentine's Day to this bar." About 10 o'clock at night, you hear this roar coming up to the front gate, and it's over 100 motorcycles.
Oh,
Turns out this guy was the head of the gang. We were all in a corner going, "We're going to die. We're in this guy's bar. And the girls just wouldn't get out of there. We're having a good time." I go, "No, we got to get out." So we're dancing, and all of a sudden the guy bumps into me, and I flip around going, "I'm going to get my ass kicked." Guy goes, "You, I know you." I go, "Yeah, I sold you your sister's VCR." He goes up, he grabs me by the neck and goes, "This is my buddy. Anybody hurts my buddy, I hurt them."
I love it.
We were we didn't pay for drinks the rest of the night. We
Uh,
didn't do anything the rest of the night. But it's how you treat people. And
yeah.
if we treat every human being like a human being, you never know what's going to come out of it.
Yes, and
And
you
that's got to be one of my favorite stories because, these guys were huge. I'm 6'2". I'm 250 pounds. And I was looking up at this guy,
oh my gosh.
you know?
I didn't know you were that tall.
Oh,
Of
I
course,
am.
I
I'm
only
a big boy.
but that is such a great story, and it's such a great lesson because you never know who you're talking to. And so many people have a really bad habit of thinking they're too good for other people, or oh, it's just an executive assistant or whatever. Um, and the thing is, those are the people that the people in charge listen to.
And rely upon.
Yes.
You want to know where the real power is in any company?
Hmm.
Talk to the executive assistants.
That's right.
You're going to get more information. You're going to get better insights out of them than
Hmm.
you are going to get out of anybody in the C-suite.
So
Yeah.
true. And the people in the C-suite rely on them. They know them, that most of them, a lot of them have been working with them for years. And they just, it's like the executive assistants run them. They tell them what to do and when
And
to
they
do it.
do.
Or, yeah. And so, everybody out there, this is a really good lesson for y'all to
Mhm.
treat everybody the same. Don't judge people by the way that they look, the way they talk, or anything else, because you never know who you might be dealing with or who they know.
Exactly.
That's an awesome story, though.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites, and I'll remember that to the day I die. Because looking up at this guy going, "Oh my God, I'm safe. Okay,
That's
I'm
so
all right."
funny. When I was in college, I dated a guy for 5 years that had Harleys, and I love that sound. So when you said it, I could just feel it.
Oh
Feel
yeah,
and hear that
you could
rumble.
feel the whole building rumble as 100 of these things came
Yeah.
down
Oh my
up the
gosh.
block.
That's so funny. So he didn't own the bar or anything. They
No,
just
no, that
happened to
was
be
their
coming in.
bar. They decide they didn't own the bar, but
Yeah, but
trust me,
their
now they
bar.
own the bar.
Yeah, that's so funny. So do you have any other tales you want to share?
You know what? I could go. I mean, really,
You could do it
I
all
could go
night.
all night.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go the next 4 hours if you're looking for stories. But the truth of the matter is, really, when you're dealing with personal brands, when you're dealing with personal stories, make them authentic. You
Mhm,
know, don't embellish, don't tell white lies, don't try to, the fish that was 6 inches long can't be 3.5 feet long at the end of the night,
mhm.
because it will come back to you. Tell
Yeah.
the stories as they are, because you know what? Most of the stories we have are great just the way they are. If
Mhm.
we start embellishing them, if we start adding on to the yarn, sooner or later somebody's going to sit there and go, really? Really?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, your brand trust goes down.
Mhm.
And the more you can keep your brand trust up, it gives you that credibility. So when you do mess up, people are going to believe you.
Yeah.
People are going to say, hey, listen, we're going to take care of it. Okay. They're going to take
Mhm.
care of it. Done. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to scream. They're going to take care of it. It's done. Fine.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Mhm.
But if you are the type of person that people can't trust, you get one shot. And that shot better be a good shot, because after that, you're done.
Yeah. And as we mentioned earlier, bad news, I think we did. You talked about it. I don't know if I said that bad news travels way faster and
Mhm.
further than good news. It's like if you go online and you read reviews, the bad people mostly do bad reviews because they're mad and they go on. So, and it's the same way with everything else. It's like if you hurt somebody or make somebody mad, you can bet they're going to tell people. But they might not tell people if you do a great job, but they are going to tell people if you screw it up and
Well,
don't
especially in
stand
the days of
behind it.
social media.
Yeah.
Especially in
Yeah.
the days of social media. And don't try to, pad your reviews on Glassdoor and Yelp and everybody else. You know
Hmm.
what? If you've got a bad review, phone the person up and say, what did we do? What did we do wrong, and how can
Hmm.
we fix it?
Yeah.
Don't just go up there and says, well, we really would like if you took your review and made it a 5-star instead of a 4-star. You know what? You're just going to make things worse. So it says,
Yeah.
how did we mess up, and how can we make things better for you?
Hmm.
And listen to them. You're
Yeah.
going to learn way more from that person than you will from the person that says, yeah, you're fine. Okay, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
And,
And a
and then
lot
they
of,
walk away.
and some people that I know throw when they're looking at something, you know, on trying to make a decision on whether they're going to buy something, they basically, in their minds, throw out the 1 star, throw out the 5 star, and look at the ones in the middle because they feel like the two,
Those are
three,
the
and
authentic
four,
ones.
those are the ones that they're not, or maybe the 3 and 4, whatever. Those, they're not the people that are doing it, saying it because they know the person. Maybe that doesn't mean all 5 stars know people, but they're not people that are just doing it to be nice. They're not people that are just mad. It's generally when they're in the middle of the road, it's a straight up review. So, yeah, that's a great point. And don't ever don't hide from people um, complaining and stuff. And, there's some people out there that you're never, ever, ever going to make happy. So all you can do is just keep going. But when you try to hide from it or start deleting things and stuff like that, that's when people get in trouble because that adds fuel to the fire.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how many people have print screened their reviews and hold on, especially the people that are mad.
Yes.
People
Mhm.
that make sure they have evidence and they go back looking for their review and go, oh, they deleted it. Oh,
Mhm.
now I'm going to have fun on Twitter and LinkedIn and TikTok on Facebook, everywhere, and I'm going to
Yeah.
post it everywhere.
Mhm.
And so instead of it just being posted on one place in Yelp, now they've taken that thing and said, hey, listen, they deleted my review. Let me tell everybody about it.
Yeah, you're just giving it more life.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so tell everybody, how can they buy your book? It's on
Okay.
Amazon, right?
Yeah, my books are available on Amazon. If you just there's 2 books here. What I'm going to do is if I put in the chat. So if you go to yourbrandmarketing.com/ebooks,
Hmm.
you're going to get a free chapter of each one of my books.
Okay.
So there's Powerful Personal Brands, a hands-on guide to understanding yours, and Leading Beyond a Crisis, a conversation about what's next. So it's here's where we are today, here's where we're going.
Okay.
Those are the 2 books. You can find them both on Amazon. The images are on the ebook page. You can download a free chapter off the ebook page. And if that works for you, hopefully it adds value to people.
Well, I'm definitely getting the Powerful Brands one. And as a matter of fact, I meant to get it last week and I got tied up in a bunch of stuff and didn't because I wanted to get it before this show, but I'm definitely going to get it because I mean, I'm not too proud to admit that I suck at my own stuff. So,
You know what? We all have blind spots.
yeah,
Every one of us have blind spots.
yeah.
And I think the more we realize we have blind spots and say, I'm okay that I have blind spots,
Mhm.
let me work on what I can work on.
Yeah.
Because we're never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
We're never going to be, there's no done. There's no done button.
Mhm.
The done button is when they put me 6 feet under. Then I'm done.
Yeah.
Up to that time, I'm still learning
Yeah,
and
for
I'm still
sure.
improving.
Mhm.
So we need to give ourselves a little bit of grace, and we need
Yeah.
to realize that who we are today doesn't need to be who we are tomorrow.
Mhm.
And the lessons that we learn today are going to make us better tomorrow.
Yeah, great point. And it's so important to learn from the mistakes that we
Mhm.
make instead of trying to hide from them or whatever. Learn from it and move forward and stop the shoulda, woulda, coulda because you can't change the past. Learn from it and move on.
You certainly can't.
Yeah. Ben, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Yourbrandmarketing.com/ebooks, right?
Ebooks, you got it.
Yeah. So y'all go grab the first chapters of his books for free and then go to Amazon and buy them. And as soon as we get off, I'm going to go to Amazon and
And
get
I
them myself.
appreciate that. Hey,
Yeah.
listen, you and my mother will each have a copy of my book. So it's a good
I'll get my husband to buy it too. No,
there.
I'm
There we
just
go. All right. Now I got 3 copies sold.
yeah.
Now we got a few more
Yeah.
than that done.
Yeah. Well, it was so nice to talk with you. Thanks so much for joining me. It's an honor to have you on my show, and I had a great time talking with you.
You know what? It's always a pleasure. We always have fun, and we'll keep the conversation going offline.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks so much, Ben. See you later. And I'll see everybody else next week. Bye bye.